Good morning, Shaun. It's a nice freezing cold day in Canberra. I'm sure it's wonderful in Victoria, but
Yep, sunny, warm, spring's around the corner, 20 degrees, blue sky, not a wind in the sky. I've been on the bike, I've been checking all my data on my sport, my Oura rings, my Whoop. I mean, my heart rate ability is going up.
Everything's well in the land of Shaun. That's fantastic. But not everything is so well in the land of AI. Tell me what you've been reading about failed projects.
Well, like we've been saying in the previous podcast, and the people who think that we're just going to rub our egos, we're not rubbing our egos. We're just saying that look at our previous podcasts and just.
So you told us you were right.
Well, exactly. Like we've been in this game for long enough, and the trends, whether it be big data and cloud, sure enough, the AI bandwagon the wheels are starting to fall off, and this is where we say to you, train, change management, the things that don't jump in too early. So let's go straight to the most credible one of the most credible studies. So it's we don't have to talk about ourselves. We can just go to facts like specific data. So and we'll put this link to these articles in the show notes for those of you who actually want to do, because there's some really good articles just to highlight. These things are just like not like an overnight success. So MIT have a report. 95%. So 95% of GenAI pilots at companies are failing.
So this is up from a report we discussed a couple of weeks ago where McKinsey's were predicting that 60% would fail, but maybe to give them the grace, that's probably over like a longer period of time. But we've definitely been calling that the stuff is overhyped and it's more complicated in the detail. And, it's one thing to walk into an executive office and show like a really nicely contained and curated little case study. It's another thing entirely to release this into the organization's entire
AIs, everything. Remember the other article, one of the podcasts we said earlier, Canva, like it's AI first, like there's pretty big bold statement, bold strategies going by companies, and the fact that the technology is getting there, but it's nowhere near enterprise ready. And this is and I'll flick to something which is really relevant so all you board members, C-level who are making decisions. You really want to have a good read of this article. Like, of course, you may think, oh, Shaun and Tim, what do you know? It's like, well, we do know a lot, but we read the same articles that you guys should be reading. And it's something which most enterprise should be looking at. This quote when it has here, for 95% of companies in the data set, Gen AI implementation, and implementation is key here, execution is key for organization, is falling short. And the core issue is it's not the quality of the AI models, but the learning gap, inverted commas, for both tools and organizations. And this is why you and I keep saying we're focusing on training and guidance, because that's where once you get up the curve and learn which part of the AI stack you want to learn and the change management, then you're off and running. But it's not going to happen by itself.
And look, I will say that this landscape is complicated. We, as you know, we're doing some strategy work at the moment, looking on helping a business to really try to get to the heart of why they're different and incredibly special in the Gen AI chatbot space. And the challenge is that the distinctions are subtle, and there are so many wrappers out there at the moment in organizations that have blown up either vibe coding or kind of wrapping on top of the Pioneer model. That it's difficult. And I think we just need to give the market the grace at the moment that it is difficult to understand the limitations and the risks of kind of what's out there. And I think this is a moment where, and this is plugging us ourselves a little bit, you really do need to have trusted thought leadership partners who are able to explain to you or explain to the organization what the capabilities are and aren't, what the risks are and aren't, and where you need to start, because everybody at the moment is running for the same gold rush and trying to promote their tools as panaceas for all corporate ails. And we know that isn't true. And also, I think the moment now, and really where we want to spend a bit of time today, is just to talk about where it all starts. And where it all starts is the board. So how does an organization's board think about this moment? You're hearing all the noise, you're hearing all the fluff, you're hearing all of the wins. Then you read articles in the news. We saw that one of the banks, I think, has announced this week that they're now, not a week ago, they announced a massive collaboration with one of the Pioneer Labs. This week, they're now announcing that they're going back to hiring people. So it's very hard to make sense of what's going on. I think that much is true.
Well, yeah, exactly. And this again, this is like a flashback to the cloud days, and hence when I was running a team when we're moving to the cloud, when quote the board was on the way to Silicon Valley, and we were back in headquarters in Europe, about to design the cloud strategy, and I asked a question to our head architect. So, what's our AI strategy? And he smiled and he says, quote, it's for the board to tell us when they get back from visiting the cloud company. And this is where, like, it's just like, it's all in rather than thinking, what do we want to do? What's the value? What's like all the things that you've been discussing. And this is where AI is going to be, it's another technology that comes back to the principles of preparation, training, focus, value, and it's up to the board. And because you've got some stuff to which I think it's for people that will help you navigate a lot of this hype and value, as well as the massive potential, but have a full holistic view of things rather than having a bias or read too much into Sam Altman from OpenAI, or getting too excited after going to Google next, which these are great things, but they're obviously promoting their product.
So let's start right from the top. Like, what is the board meant to do? I think that's really important. So if you sit on a board in a head of risk position, strategy, whatever else, and for our audience, the board's got a couple of key responsibilities, and those are strategic oversight, governance and compliance, that's rules and regulations, setting your internal policies in an organization, which is incredibly important too. Have you got a policy around AI? You've got fiduciary duties, that's really kind of your financial responsibilities and oversight, the things that you need to perform as a director. Risk management, absolutely huge. Financial stewardship, so like how do I make responsible decisions? How to help the organization to be empowered to make financially responsible decisions? You've got a as a member of the board, you would need to look after your people and your leadership, and then you obviously have your accountability to your shareholders. Now, if you think about these 7 different attributes, or let's call them like overarching responsibilities of the board, let's double click on strategic oversight. So like, what is the strategic lens look like here? And what's the risk? I mean, I think we will touch a little bit on the operationalization as well, which is kind of how the people component fits into it. But it's very clear to me that this moment in time needs to start with direction from the board. The board needs to understand the risks, needs to understand the opportunities, and needs to understand how they're going to implement that in the business. And really set the tone around, we've spoken in the past about how to identify opportunities and evaluate the financial metrics. That's also something that needs to be instilled in the business and led, if it isn't there already, by the board of directors.
And just on that one too, so people who might think like, okay, what are the 2 extremes here? If they say like, no, like let's be decentralized and let's let the boards slow things down. Okay, if you have that perspective, then you're basically going to say, have everybody to choose your own adventure. And in this game with AI, if you let everybody to choose your own adventure, with some using different LLMs and some using different GenAIs, it's going to end up most likely in a pretty bad way. So for this area, in terms of board providing like these core areas to help frame the guardrails and scope of these things, what we're about to go through here, this is basically mitigating, but also to providing a long-term view of what's going to be success look like. Because underneath the board, people don't have that full view of the things that we're discussing. For those people who's a bit cynical, thinking that, here we go again, the board needs to decide about how things are going to be done. But for this area, it's super important.
It really is important. And I think like there was sort of a hope, if I think about how this hype cycle started, I think there was just a hope that everybody would just effortlessly unlock value. It was almost like built into the conversation that this technology was so transformative that you just sort of unleash it and it would deliver value to your business. I think that the truth is unfortunately age old, that it's always different this time and it's always the same. And we've spoken about this so much about the discipline of things, but I wanted just to contextualize a hype cycle. Remember the Internet of Things. There were going to be 50 billion connected devices. Everything was going to monitor and measure and be connected to the internet. Then there was blockchain. And I mean, these things, they are all part of our landscape now. But invariably, they don't take the kind of hold that we expect that they're going to take. The metaverse, remember when Mark Zuckerberg bet family jewels on the metaverse. Everything is the metaverse. And then what happened? Rolled completely back. Autonomous cars. I mean, how long has it been? Autonomous cars.
How many times has Google, like, and Elon Musk been saying that other Tesla's going to be, like, going to be driving owning a Tesla as well as. Remember on our EDM council, we've been having an autonomous car ontology back 5 years ago, and still, like, this, insurance, all these things that, the issues that when it comes down to the crux,
And people were going to sell the garages or repurpose them because that was, and you weren't going to need a car, you're just going to hail a car. And we'll come back to where these things have all gone, right? Quantum computing, I mean, that was, the end of RSA encryption. I mean, we're still talking about 1,000 qubit machines by 2025. And now where we are, GenAI. And what's the promise there, right? The year of the agent, the gentle singularity, the age of immortality. And what's true of all these things is that they do become something.
Exactly.
They never become as big or as fast because of the structure of society. Society has got an incredible way of throwing friction into the mix. People don't necessarily, you spoke about regulation, so autonomous cars, we can't get that over the line. There are physical constraints to these things, and oftentimes there's the excitement that we have about the technology trigger gets muted despite the strength of the technology. So it's worth, as a board, just thinking about the fact that it may not be that different this time, even though the technology may even be more impressive. So that gives us what Gartner, we love to call the hype cycle. I've loved this hype cycle since I first met it. It's got this, like, sounds like a Mills and Boon model as you move through the innovation trigger, the peak of inflated
excitement,
the climatic, and then down into the trough of disillusionment. And then for those that recover, the slope of enlightenment. But what's not shown on this chart, this one, is there's also a trash heap of failures for the businesses that kind of don't get it right. And the hype at the moment, and where Gartner are plotting GenAI, is we're actually falling down now from the peak of inflated expectations. And this is the failure rate that we're talking about. And there's so many things that are going to drive the failure of these AI cases. Some of them on the right. So, enterprise grade throughput rates. If you've chatted to ChatGPT-5, admittedly is faster, but think about the rate at which enterprise software needs to function. You need it to be, for all use cases, effectively instant. So you can never have a situation where your workflow can't be performed in a given set of time because of the rate of something in the chain that's slow. And if you prompt into ChatGPT right now and you wait back for a response from an LLM, this stuff takes seconds sometimes. And just to reflect on when we were building enterprise software in the survey world many years ago, we needed to be able to produce 500 transactions minimum per second per thread. Minimum, to keep up with data ingestion from CRM systems. When you've got one single thing in the chain that's too slow, you cause a bottleneck and everything collapses. So there are so many constraints. So just the speed of LLMs, the first thing. Hallucinations. I mean, they say now, the official tagline, and Shaun, interrupt me whenever you feel like it, but the official tagline is that the new models are generating 1 to 2% of the time, okay? The lived reality is more like 20% of the time, okay? The ISO 27001 and all the other standards, I mean, they typically talk about the 5 nines, which is the acceptable failure rate for non-core systems, which must be up, and it must produce reliable results 99.999% of the time. That's very different to 1 to 2%. Even 1 to 2% sounds okay, but that's 99 to 98% of the time. So we're not even close in terms of reliability here. And yes, there are guardrails. Then there's inconsistencies in the models. We've seen that. The problem, drift, all these different things that can happen. We've spoken about social resistance to change. There's this kind of incumbent mentality that happens as well, where people feel that they can't be dislodged. We can talk about that a little bit more at another time. And then I put this Sam Altman. There's kind of like the Sam Altman effect, which when we actually first put this slide together, it hadn't happened yet, but it's the overhype. You've got poster children you've got these poster children of the big labs raising all of this money in Silicon Valley, promising an incredible change because they've got these shareholders that need that return, and they are driving the hype even higher and further away from reality. Okay, excellent. Anything you want to add there, Shaun?
Again, I just feel like for a lot of people who who have been in the industry for quite some time in technology, they would have seen the hype cycle. We have one for for analytics, and there's one for like metadata. So hence that there's not, for those of you who are new to it, there's not just the AI one. There's like this hype cycle operates for different technologies, and hence that's what we're showing now is just again another history repeating to add to context to what we're discussing here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then just the final thing on these, on what's driving the trough is that we've spoken about it a lot, but these models are probabilistic. And a probabilistic model means that it won't. So there's a lot of confusion in the market between explainability and auditability. And what we can't do with these probabilistic models at the moment is always tell you exactly what's going to come out the other side.
Yeah,
that's what we mean when we say probabilistic. So we build in guardrails and we say that a chatbot generally mustn't say X, Y, and Z. But what you can't do right now with a chatbot is say in advance, given a set of inputs, exactly what it will say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that's a key distinction which I think has been missed largely, and it is in fact the probabilistic nature of these models.
Or like the important thing is to like, particularly with when we look at business intelligence in the past, we talk about like knowledge graphs and ontologies, where if you ask the same question, you'll always get the same response.
Yeah.
Now, and this is where, hence with AI, but GenAI, when you ask the same question at different times, you're getting different responses. And this is where, if people are going, if somebody was asking, if a regulator or somebody from the board was asking a really important question, and somebody goes, oh, I'll use our internal GenAI, and they get one response, and somebody else gives another response, they go like, why you guys both got different responses? Like, oh, we're using our corporate ... ChatGPT.
Exactly.
And then it comes down to which one do I trust? And this is going to cause massive issues for credibility, as well as the problem that where it is now. So it's a big issue.
And I think what's lost here is that we'll have another conversation more deeply about guardrails and safeguards, but this concept of evals, running 1 million simulations against your models and then being able to accurately evaluate what came back on those million simulations. I think people are taking massive shortcuts.
Yeah.
You're noticing that generally, I mean, if you think about it, if a model's right 100 times, 99 out of 100 times, I'm just not seeing a lot of enterprise customers running the simulations to look for the one instance where it's wrong and understand the scale of that risk. And that's oversimplifying it, but this is a big area to watch. Right, okay. So, I mean, the question now, if you're sitting as a board, the first thing is we've landed the context, right? The context is that it's not always different this time, but it's always different this time. And these models, this is an incredible technology, but we can learn a lot from other hype cycles. And we need to think very carefully about who are the losers and who are the winners in other hype cycles and why. So that's one question to be left with the board. Second question is, where will this technology disrupt first and where will it disrupt last?
Yeah.
And you need to think of that in the context of the processes inside your business, as well as what your business does, the subject matter of your business, right? Because AI could be an existential threat for your business, and it could be an existential threat for departments in your business, or it might not be, not depending. I read a beautiful quote the other day that said, I want AI to do my dishes so that I can do art. I don't want the AI to do art, so I have to do the dishes. But what that talks to is the complementarity of AI. So we've got this kind of 2x2 that talks about disruption happening across two axes. So where's the high complementarity? And so where are you going to be exposed to AI? And there's low complementarity. And what that means is the things that are going to be, they're not easily complemented by AI, but they're very heavily exposed and replaced by AI. So these are the things that are going to happen first. They're the ones that are going to first be disrupted. Then you have things that are next most at risk, which are very exposed to it, but the complementarity is there. So you may have like a lawyer, for example, doing some case reviews and stuff by synthesizing the data. It's on the edges, it's collaborative, but it's not going to disrupt. It's first going to augment. Then you've got the stuff that's kind of, this order is actually wrong. It should go 4 and then 3. But the next one is low exposure, high complementarity. So that's where it's ripe for augmentation, but there's not a lot. They can't do it all that well right now. And then the final areas where it can't do it really well, and there's no opportunity for for complementarity. So if you plot that then on this axis, you kind of get a picture that looks roughly like this. With telemarketers, it's not really that helpful to have a bot with a human in the loop for outbound sales calls. We're already seeing that, right? You're getting these LLMs, converting sales scripts that have been trolling through a CRM, auto dialing, reading out a call. Their feelings never get hurt. They can phone a million rejections in a row. You can just hang up on them and move. So why would you have a telemarketer? Like the numbers just don't bear out. Like there's no complementarity, and there's huge exposure. So gone. Category falls away. Then we spoke about like lawyers and judges. So like, I suppose the complementarity there's also got a lot to do with the fact that there's like regulatory friction. So it's not going to happen tomorrow that we're just going to give the keys to the tutor law archives to an AI and say, off you go, make it all, because we know it's going to hallucinate and things. So it was pre-screened, but we also know that in the pre-screening of the fact, in the case studies, that it references all the law. Every now and again, it's going to make up a case of Rolls versus Matthis, which never happened, right? So you still need to go and check it out.
Exactly,
yeah. And so we go, and unlucky for all of us, dishwashers.
One thing, surely, this is like,
artists,
Sam or Elon, just give us a chatbot that can wash my clothes and dishwash it. Like get to the real stuff, please, so we can spend more time doing sport and on my bike and that.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it's one way to think about where the disruption will happen across these axes. You can take a similar heuristic and apply it into your organization to think about which functions in your organization, because telemarketers can both be a function and a business.
This is really important to so when people go through these slides as a guides and boards, like this is what we mean by having objective scrutiny. So you can discuss this with your board rather than being influenced. Did you read about our competitors going all into AI? We need to catch up, or we're late to the game. Like it's hence that you take that with a grain of salt, but you actually then evaluate. Okay, if we're going to play to the same tune as our competitors, at least do an analysis here in terms of look at these criteria and then go, which quadrant do we want to be in, and also too factually, does this make sense based upon our strategy?
That's right. Like be defensible, be able to say why you've made the decisions, and be confident enough that you know enough to have these convictions. I think right now, and I'm going to be a little bit nasty, but I think a lot of people are simply feeling that everybody's doing AI.
Yeah.
We have to spend on AI.
We're late to the game, and we don't do it now. We're going to basically we've missed the AI train. It's going to be disastrous, and we're going to be disrupted. And
so those are the worst behaviors, is when people respond with a great sense of urgency with not enough information. You need to be methodical. I think that's really important. So you have to react, but how you react is really important.
Yeah.
Then I just want to touch on, we don't have enough time in this pod to go through everything, but I think the next part, you sort of said, what does it look like now? Is this a hype cycle? Yes, this is a hype cycle. Might be a different hype cycle. How will disruption happen? Where will it happen? And now the next question is, well, how on earth do I operationalize AI in my business? Now, I'm not talking about the use cases. I'm talking about the general kind of idea of every single part of my business could potentially benefit from utilizing this new technology. How do I get that to work? There are many different operating models, but one that we think works well is if you early on in your journey is to set up something like a core. And the core is like a center of excellence where you've got trusted thought leaders in the business who know enough. This is a domain which is really specialized. You need to establish that, and you need to be really careful of like reskinning the same people. So sometimes what happens is you've got a person who was an expert in accounts, and now suddenly he's an expert in AI. So make sure you've got the right skills, then you can sort of defend that these guys know what they're doing.
Particularly people who come from different perspectives. It's almost like in banking, like having a hedge. So if you have people from technology who'll see, like look at things in more detail, like the models. Then we also bring people who come from that more of a business angle, who come look at more holistically, who basically more close to the end user, who go, well, okay, the model could be perfect and everything looks great, but if we put this towards the customer as opposed to X, this is not going to be great for our brand. So having a diversified set of capability of people in that AI core allows you to be representative of a strategy that then does this fit our business from the different angles. rather than having the same people, as you say, Tim, like just go, oh, this person's always the one who gives the analysis and he's super smart, or she, throw them into the Center of Excellence team and see what they say.
And then you need to sort of integrate the core with the lines of business or your functional areas or your segment heads or whatever it is. And you do that through a relationship with ambassadors who live outside of the core but are closely linked to it, and practitioners who have got the domain expertise within the function. So if you're thinking about somebody who lives in credit risk, he knows credit risk, you need somebody who bridges the gap between technical knowledge of what can be done using models and the data that exists in the organization and credit risk, and kind of help them to then bring that into value in the organization. So look, I mean, just a couple of warnings on this. We don't really have enough time, but you need to be quite careful of having like a single policy review board. So again, this is something that's mandated by the board, right? So the board needs to make sure that it centralizes governance for the way that these cores work. You need to make sure that we've spoken about it already, that the skills are authentic and that there's the right skills gradient between the technical knowledge of the core, the domain-specific knowledge of the other sides of the spoke, outside of the HUD, and then the right skills in the integration layer that are part of the knowledge transfer backwards and forwards between those areas. And it's important to have things like internal accreditations or even external accreditations, because now, remember, there's a backdrop of vendors have come in, and you've got people who are, the OpenAIs are contracting out on big consulting projects with some of the big banks and others, and you've got companies who are providing metadata, and you've got companies who are providing all sorts of things. Do the people using that technology understand the limits of the technology? So you need to make sure that the accreditations properly adhered to drive that culture inside the business. Another one, Shaun, I'm sure you can talk about it, but duplicate tooling and costs is something that we see, and you've got to kind of be a bit careful of that, making sure that the procurement of technologies is done the right way. You can probably talk to that a bit.
Yeah, this is huge, and this is like we're seeing this in almost in every client, even before AI. But now that with AI, it's since with AI and also a lot of things related to AI with the knowledge graphs and ontologies and is metadata, and this is where metadata needs to be managed in a data catalog. Also uses particularly and also how you share data through APIs as well as through automation. And everybody has a data catalog. A knowledge graph has a data catalog attached to it, or partly one. All the hyperscalers have data catalogs, and then you have the full vendor and the full vendors who specialize in data catalogs. And most companies, without them knowing about it, have 3 or 4 data catalogs that are overlapping, and the licensing of these are coming really expensive, as well as that they treat how you manage that metadata in different ways. So if you want to treat AI consistently as well as manage the risk, if your tooling isn't consistent or overlapping, or even worse, managed in different ways across the organization, you're going to have a large time one, paying for it, and 2, having a consistent way of managing across the organization.
And I think we'll make the observation that, like, for a number of reasons, but not only the fact that this is an incredibly technical space, but also because there's been so much new tech built in a very short amount of time. Not only do organizations tend not to understand what's going on, but vendors don't. So that's we notice in more and more as we engage with more and more vendors that it's really important to have oversight with people who understand where one organization, because it's such a land grab at the moment, you're finding people who are doing, for example, let's just use an example, people who are maybe doing classic SQL databasing might then also say that they're becoming catalog experts, or they're becoming metadata experts, and people are sort of bleeding over into the edges in the same way that the guys who run Pioneer Labs might be saying they're consulting experts, or they might be able to say that they can create enterprise-ready deterministic paths. And that's not always true, and sometimes it's kind of a little bit of a Dunning-Kruger, the guys don't know what they don't know. But it's really important that you've got some oversight mandated by the board to understand that technology ecosystem more than ever. And the narrative that everybody can do everything, it's getting really dangerous, because it's really quick to spool up points of functionality using vibe code and other things, saying you can do it. Enterprise-grade technology is a whole different kettle of fish. So you need to make sure.
And I want to underline the word enterprise grade, because it's a super important point for those organizations who are not a startup or a small organization. Because and the reason why I jump on this, because I've spent most of the time working for large organizations globally, And a lot of companies who go to like a Gartner or other conference find a tool or technology which looks fantastic on the demo and does tick all the boxes, but when they plug it into the enterprise, it's a whole different ball game because of the enterprise has their own different technologies, they have the different landscape, and a lot of companies who aren't enterprise have never played in this game before. So when they get, oh, how do you plug into this? And it's like, oh, we don't know. Or how do you provide training to 1,000 people? Oh, we haven't done it before. So all these enterprise-grade challenges means that you don't integrate these toolings correctly. It's slow to be used or rolled out across the organization. And a lot of the time, people use it in the wrong way. And when they ask for support, they go, oh, sorry, all our support people are busy right now, helping other clients. We'll come back to you in 2 weeks' time. And then everything stops. And these are some of the examples of why enterprise grade is so critical to get right.
And it's something I thought I'd never ever say in my life, but in some ways, some of the software has become too easy. So I've been to many demos recently looking at products, and in some instances, you can create workflows on softwares and just use the agent space, right? Like the agent space, agent with tools, chatbot typing, performing a point function, maybe it's a reconciliation. I've seen some businesses saying that the way that you set up your agent is just to have a text file, and that text file contains the instructions and, for example, the limits. So maybe I want to give a bot the ability to authorize payments above a certain threshold. Well, then all I do is go into that text file and update the limits. Now, that's super easy. It's amazing. It's an enterprise disaster. I mean, where are the controls? Where are the... And another thing that you see with these agents, as an example, is that they will... It's not like classic compute or API calls where if you get the structure wrong, it just fails, right? It's like it returns like an invalid syntax or whatever the code is. Very often the stuff will do something.
Well, that's that used to trigger me in terms of like when you showed the example the other week when you had an agent. I think it was one of the articles where it said the agent did something but you told it not to, and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I just did it." Imagine this example where you've actually set up limits and payments, and because it's still so quite unstable. Imagine if somebody who had hacked into the agent and then basically allow it to basically violated its control, and the agent gave somebody double the amount of money than it should have. You can't tell the customer, oh, sorry, my agent misbehaved. Oh, sorry, stuffed up. The money's gone. The banks don't give you the money back. It's like, hey, you went with agents. Like this is
really, everyone's quoting the Canadian Airlines refund chatbot policy, but the point is that there are many, many, many edge cases here, and one has to be very, very careful. So, boards out there, I think this is your moment to shine from a governance point of view. One of the favorite things of boards.
The reins. So it's almost like. I know we love analogies on the podcast here, but it's almost like the horse hasn't bolted. You guys, this is your chance for you guys on the boards to keep control of the reins, rather than let the horse, and the horse being the AI, to control the pace for you. Because like these are the critical things. It will save you in the long run here, particularly too if the horse has bolted too fast and it's crashed. You can't say, "Hey, sorry, it's the horse's fault." It's that you guys built the reins, and girls. Are the ones here that it's so critical to provide these like frameworks, structures, let AI build into these structures and strategies, not sort of react and panic, which is going to make it a lot harder and painful to recoup down the track.
And what I will say in closing about this moment is just that this technology is transformative, and there will be exponential and very uneven gains, but they will happen to the businesses that are the best executors. It's almost like the good businesses with the best strategies who execute the best against the backdrop of disruptive tech in this instance are going to get bigger and stronger yields than other technology triggers if allowed. Like if I compare it to going to the cloud, for example, this potentially does generate much more downstream value. And the flip side of that is the businesses that are reckless, late to respond, or respond badly too early can do disproportionate damage to themselves. So it's a very important moment for the boards to step in and act and understand the moment and get those strategies.
Absolutely. We're building like foundations, like what's common to the strategies that we've been talking about with data and then with cloud and then with AI is that there's always a foundational layer. And these are the things that we're talking about in terms of like, hence, what's going to create business value, what are the things that need to be done first, in what sequence, and basically the balancing enablement and acceleration, but with guardrails and governance. And that's where, when you have that foundations, then you can basically press the button and hit the go button. But every I'm talking every time we've seen going to clients that haven't done a foundation, they basically had to like pause a lot of things, and then all the time that we'll try to race ahead, they've had to spend going backwards. So foundations have never wasted time. They're actually building capacity and acceleration down the tree. And there's no replacement to doing a foundation. It just has to be done to understand what you need.
Exactly. I know we love our analogies, so I'm gonna end with one more, because I know boards have got short attention, so we'll keep it short today. But I feel like AI is like hiring a mad super genius into your business. So it's like you've got this super genius, but he's mad. So you need to make sure you contain this mad super genius in ways that align to your business, and he doesn't go absolutely rogue and do something nutsos, because he will. So how you look after your super genius is on you, boards. It's on you.
Exactly, like instead of saying the buyer beware, like the board beware, and that's when the more aware you are, you're the ones who are going to be the heroes here, not the mad scientist who runs around there thinking that everything's going to be solved. And maybe Sam Altman is. It's like, imagine having Sam on your board. Like, would you like him running around going, "Yep, we can do everything right now by AI. Agents are all ready. ChatGPT in the file is ready to go. Plug and play." And then go, "Oh shit, sorry. We've got to call it back. We've got some issues in errors and stuff. You know, like the volatility up and down. And the board's going like, what are you doing?" So sensibility, calm, and have a read of those articles that we're going to plug in the show notes. It gives a reality check of where things are at, and you can make up your own conclusions from those. But already, as we've been discussing, I need the facts that things aren't as rosy as some of the labs have been calling out. So just take some caution.
We'll post some images of those slides that we spoke through, and give us a call. Like, if you want to talk to us about your board requirements, we've got a short 90-minute presentation that we do tailored to your board to discuss your needs. We'd love to come and have a conversation. That's a shameless plug.
Exactly. Like, the resources are there, and I said, like, this is why we're here to, like, hence that this space is needed. Otherwise, people are going to be going to consultants, fixing things, and we're not in the game to fix things. We're actually there to prevent them. So for those boards who like to have prevention as well as some guidance, by all means, this is where we play. So please engage with us. That passion, this is what we like to do, and the more collaborative, the better.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for listening. It's been episode 10.
Awesome. Speak to you next week. Thanks, Tim. Enjoy one.
Thanks, Shaun.